Welcome to the video, guys. As we all know, the Border Forces taxi service is running a daily trip between France and the UK, picking up as many boats as they can find. Funnily enough, even the BBC are reporting on this quite regularly, it would seem. They have articles here which we will take a look at from the day before yesterday and yesterday. We will also take a look at an article from the Herald where we hear from a former chief of the Border Force who's calling for a new treaty with France to stop this from happening. But obviously, we already have a treaty that is clearly not working. So I really don't see how this will help, and we also have Tory ministers piping up, which is rather laughable considering how bad they have been on this situation. And for the next 4 months at least, they can blame the EU, but that will not last long once we are actually out. Then, as I've said many times before, it is 100% on them, and there is no hiding. At the moment, there are certain EU laws that makes it a bit of a pain in the arse, but as we all know, they can actually do a hell of a lot more. But like I said, the BBC have picked up on this with the article we're going to look at here. 9 boats intercepted in the Channel. This was the 1st of August. And obviously, we know this has been happening all week, all month, all bloody year, for God's sake. Let's be honest here. They are coming in every single day. Pick me a day when there haven't been migrant boats arriving on the beaches or picked up halfway across the Channel. Now, before we get into that, remember the Channel's daily live streams have moved over to Twitch, so if you want to join me over there to chat in real time, the link will be down in the video description along with the channel's other social media links. And also, on a quick note, I would like to pay a big thanks to the channel's members. We passed 100 members on the channel yesterday, which is the first time we have done that, so thank you all very much for that. But now back to the BBC article and the debacle that is going on in the Channel. That is both the EU's fault and of course our own government, solely on the head of Priti Patel, especially after the December deadline that is only a few months away now. 9 boats carrying 96 migrants across the Channel have been intercepted by the Border Force. The Home Office said they were alerted to vessels travelling from France to the UK at about 4 PM BST on Friday. One boat landed on a beach near to the nuclear power plant in Kent, the police said. Since the 1st of January 2020, there have been 3,583 migrants who have reached the UK. A record 202 people in 20 vessels reached the UK on Thursday. And what they mean by that is there have been 3,583 migrants that the Home Office can't hide. I expect the Home Office know there is a fuckload more of them that are here than that number stated there. 2 Border Force vessels were deployed on Friday alongside an RNLI lifeboat and Coast Guard rescue teams, all at our expense. The occupants of the boats presented themselves as Iranian, Syrian, Iraqi, Eritrean, Kuwaiti, Afghani and Sudanese, or essentially Labour voters. As we know, Labour want to give everyone the right to vote, including illegal immigrants and any other migrant who happens to be here. Now, moving on from what the BBC had to say, we have this article here in the Herald. That was literally posted an hour or so ago as I am recording this video. This is a former head of the UK Border Force who is calling for another treaty with France on migrant crossings to avoid crisis numbers, as you can see in the headline there, which obviously is going to have you all screaming, it's already crisis numbers, you complete and utter idiot, which of course would be 100% correct. You don't have record numbers floating over here with the UK Border Force picking them up and not consider it a crisis, especially when the government appears to just be letting them do it and putting them up in 4-star hotels, as I pointed out the other day. A failure by the UK to reach a new agreement with France on how to deal with migrant crossings could lead to numbers reaching crisis levels, an ex-Border Force chief warned. Well, I'd have to disagree with that, because as soon as December's over and we're officially out of the EU completely, then the government can just say, you know what, fuck it, we're sending them straight back. They do not bring them here, they just turn them straight around over there and send them straight back. You simply tell the French Coast Guard to come and pick them up because they are their responsibility, they've come from their coastline at the end of the day, and let's be honest, none of them can be legitimate because of what they have done here and the fact that they have travelled through multiple safe countries. It comes after a record number of crossings to Britain in a single day last week and follows a government minister branding the number of incidents unacceptably high. Well, why don't you pull your finger out of your ass and actually do something about it? You know, it's not that difficult, you can do it. The Tories have an 80-seat majority. If they were anything worth their salt, then this would already be done, but we already know, like Labour, 2 cheeks of the same arsehole that are just covered covered in shit and completely useless, especially when it comes to things that actually help the people of this country, as we are seeing here. Tony Smith, the former head of the UK Border Force, said the UK and France need to agree a treaty with a joint patrol whereby migrants picked up in the Channel can be returned to France to have asylum claims considered there. It shouldn't even be considered when you factor in what they've done, and as I've said, the fact that they've travelled all the way across Europe to get to France so they can come into the United Kingdom. He told the PA news agency, "What I am advocating is that we need to try as best we can to replicate the juxtaposed controls for legitimate applicants in the same way as for illegitimate ones," which, as I've said already, is just bollocks considering none of them can be legitimate for the reasons I've already outlined multiple times already. If they want to come to the UK, they need to make their case on the French side, and if they are found in the waterways or even make it as far as Dover, we say, "I'm sorry, but you go back there," and that's where you will be interviewed and processed on the French side. Which I do have to say, I 100% agree with that. That is how it should be and how it should always have been. Now, do I think the Tory government will do that? Probably not. It is possible that they might, but I'm willing to bet that they actually won't. Despite an 80-seat majority, they are as weak as piss water at the end of the day. Last month, Home Secretary Priti Patel sought to level blame at her French counterparts, telling the House of Commons Affairs Committee of the unacceptable numbers of people making the perilous journey in small boats. And yes, she is right to level blame at the French counterparts, but she also needs to take a fuckload of blame herself at the end of the day. There is a reason why I've been calling her Pretty Piss Poor Patel over the last few months. This is, of course, one of those reasons, along with the grooming gang report, that we all know is going to get whitewashed when it gets released, so is completely pointless at the end of the day, much like the UK's attempts to stop these fuckers coming over here. On Saturday, Immigration Compliance Minister Chris Philip called on France to be stronger on intercepting vessels at sea and directing the return of boats which are trying to get to the UK. Well, yeah, that's a good idea to call on them to be stronger, because at the moment they are literally just chaperoning them over here and then handing them off to us. They are not acting strong in any sense of the word. They are capitulating like the French always do. At least 202 migrants crossed to Britain on Thursday, we already know of that. Asked how hopeful he is of the Home Office being able to reach a new deal with France, Mr. Smith said, "I wouldn't like to call it as to whether or not they can make the breakthrough. All I would say is that we've done it before and the numbers were far greater then." Which I have to question when you consider we've had record numbers coming in. How the fuck does he come out with that statement? This guy seems like a bit of an idiot. I think there are potentially opportunities, but there will have to be some kind of quid pro quo which will satisfy the French that this was a measure that is designed to help both parties, not just a one-way street where the UK is essentially able to blockade anyone coming over from France, which is just nonsensical once again and shows this guy is a complete fucking idiot in my opinion. At the end of the day, it should literally be a blockade, not essentially, it should literally be a blockade for anyone coming over from France that has no right to do so. You go through the correct immigration channels, and if you're allowed in, then you're allowed in. But if you are not, then you do not jump in a boat and try to come over here, because if not, you will be sent straight back, either by boat or by plane. Either way, we don't mind paying for you to get back, we just don't want to pay for you to be here. End of story. And I tell you what, if you want to give the French a reason to actually stop these fuckers from coming over here, then maybe we should start fining France £1 million for every single one of them that lands on our beaches or our border force has to pick up. That way, it would soon become much more financially viable for France to actually stop these fuckers from doing it and end this shit show that we are seeing, rather than just letting it happen. That would actually require Priti Patel and the UK government to grow a spine, so obviously don't hold your breath on that one. He said the current approach is putting people's lives at risk and fueling the smuggling supply chain, which is something I have pointed out many times before and is kind of obvious to anyone with half a brain cell. The number of migrants in small boats intercepted by the border force on Friday fell to 96, but Mr. Smith said if daily numbers were to continue in the high hundreds, you are going to start getting up to the numbers that actually were indeed a crisis almost 20 years ago. Let me tell you, it's already a fucking crisis now, you complete and utter idiot. He added, I do worry that if we can't get a new agreement with the French on returns, we're not going to be able to stop this, and we could see the numbers of the scale of which we have seen in years gone by. Well, that's fine. If we have troubles with France on returns, then we simply take away some of the fuel for these boats, turn them around and send them back. Give them literally enough fuel to get back into French waters and call the French Coast Guard and tell them to come and get them, because obviously they're going to run out of fuel. It's pretty simple at the end of the day. These people are not the UK's responsibility. End of fucking story. But this article here shows you exactly why we're in the situation we're in. We have piss poor weak Tories and of course the border force calling calling for some absolute bullshit. Like I've said already, you just turn them round and send them back. It's simple as that. I don't see why the UK government can't do it, especially after Brexit is finally done. Right now, there might be some issues with that, but at the end of the day, once we are out of the EU, it is up to us as an independent nation.
There is a pattern consistent throughout history of oppressed people turning on the oppressors, slaves against their owners, the peasantry against the feudal barons, colonies, Mr. Verhofstadt, against their empires, and that is why Britain is leaving. And it doesn't matter which language you use, we are going, and we are glad to be going. We're off.